welcome
Welcome.
to our first unofficial episode of the Horr-gasm podcast.
Episode 0. Our
Big ol' zero.
introductions, getting to know us, getting to know our podcast,
Why we're doing this crazy thing, how we got started in this crazy thing.
how we got started in horror movies.
Ooh,
That's another thing, because that's not something you come out of the womb and you're watching a horror movie.
Not yet. Well, I'm sure it has happened.
Probably.
But that's neither here nor there. No, this is us starting out our little podcast we got going here. And I'm Nick, by the way.
And I'm Al.
And we're cousins who love horror movies. We're both horror enthusiasts.
We sure are.
And
I'm a bit of a new horror enthusiast. Nick's a bit of an older horror enthusiast. He
true.
helped turn me on to horror movies. Turn me on, Horr-gasm.
Nice. There's going to be a few sexual Horr-gasm puns throughout our entire run, so...
Hope everybody's okay with that, but...
if not, tough luck. It's happening.
You can listen to a different podcast. How about that?
Boring podcasts that don't have Horr-gasm in it.
Exactly.
But yeah, so, let's start off. So, how did you get into horror movies, Lana?
Well, I got into horror movies. I didn't really watch a whole lot. My first kind of a start with a horror movie was, I watched a couple scattered ones throughout my youth, not many. My partner and I, when we first started dating 10 years ago, he decided he was going to choose a movie for us to go to. And I thought, okay, great. Well, that sounds, all romantic and whatever. And the first date that we go on, that's a movie date. And he chooses The Crazies.
Oh, that's a good movie.
It's a good movie. But at the time, not watching horror movies, it was like I shit my pants the entire movie. Like I wasn't ready for it. And he told me it was an action movie, and I was like, okay, great, that's fun. And it was horrifying. So he doesn't get to choose the movies when we go out anymore because I was wronged. But looking back on it now, it was a good movie. I think it was a good movie.
I think it's a good kind of half take on the zombie idea, but they weren't zombies. They were just infected with...
it was like a bioinfection or something, wasn't it?
It had like a rabies kind of feel to it, or rage. Similar to 28 Days Later. They weren't really zombies, but they had zombie qualities. As I just spout out my horror knowledge.
Yeah, speaking of which, how did you get started on horror movies, Nick?
Oh, I probably when I was 5, 6, 7. When the town I grew up in, there was always, the VHS, we rent the movies, old, I'm showing my age right now.
Oh my gosh. I miss VHSs. Can I just tell everybody? I miss VHSs.
Oh,
they were amazing.
You can find them. I got a little collection going.
I believe it.
It's going to be huge in the end.
DVDs were skipping. Blu-rays are, I think, a bit better.
They were.
But
yeah, you can't, unless you take a razor blade to it.
Can't really scratch them anymore.
They're just so good.
Oh.
But no, I grew up just, whenever I go rent a movie, I'd kind of peruse through the horror movies. I go through all the cardboard containers, for what the VHS was.
Yes.
And I go through them, and I go through, I'd see the Nightmare on Elm Street. And I'm like, oh, cool, I look on the back. And I see some of the scary pictures. I'm like, okay, what is this? This is cool. Why is this girl's face all blown up? Why is he pulling, I think Freddy had his claw hand out.
Yes,
he had, some, his, flesh on the end of the tip of his claw. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's kind of creepy, but it's cool.
So cool. Horror movies have some of the best, posters, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And box covers.
Yes.
They're fantastic because you really have to use your imagination while not being too explicit that people start complaining if they bring their kids into the store. You know what I mean?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. And apparently my very first scary movie was when I was such a baby. 2. Your mother, my aunt, I guess they rented Aliens.
Yes.
And apparently I sat and watched it, and me as a kid, I remember that. But I can say that was my first horror movie.
That's a good one to start on.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah, all the Aliens. Almost.
Yes.
Almost. But I remember when we were young and I was come visiting, and we go rent movies at the old VHS place.
Yes.
And you and your dad and your sister would go to look at the family movies, and I'd sneak off to the horror section.
Yes.
And it has its own little spot. You know, you'd have to go in. It's dark in there. They had cobwebs and all that. It looked spooky, and had all these great, you know, B movies, big budget movies, all the horror you can imagine out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I would always like when I saw an outlaw, or when I grew up in, I would snoop through, and I'd see, you know, the Toxic Crusader or Jaws and all that, and I knew I wasn't supposed to be in there because it's horror. Horror was adult. It's not for kids. But I'm like, this is cool.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. I like this. And as I grew up, I got more into it. I would, you know, if they had it on TV, I'd watch it. Or I'd try and get the brave enough to rent them when I was younger. And
yes.
I don't know if you remember. It's not as much horror, but Monster Squad.
Okay.
I rented that once to watch with us, and I got probably a.
Was that a cartoon?
No.
No?
No, live action. It was like the kids go against all the horror icons.
Yes.
Dracula,
I remember this.
Werewolf. I think it was a mummy. I forget now. We'll have to watch it. We'll have to add it to our list.
I was listening to something about it, and that was, they mentioned Monster Squad actually because I think in the book, Richie is scared of werewolves.
Yes.
And that was one of the things that they referenced was the Monster Squad.
Yeah.
Isn't that what they're watching in the theater in the 1990s one? Like the miniseries?
Maybe.
You know when they dump the pop on the kids? On the bullies?
I forget.
I would have to check. No, it's but that's something that they reference. He's scared of the werewolf in the 1990s miniseries. Yes, because I remember I was watching a documentary or reading a blog about that, and I was like, yes, I know what you're talking about. And that's a good one.
Anyways, I was watching it, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll watch it with my nieces. And, of course, your mom, you can't watch this. This is too scary. I'm like, oh, come on. It's got kids in it. It's
that's
not scary. And no, take it back. Take it back. So,
there you go,
I think I rented, I don't know, She-Ra or something instead for you girls.
That sounds great.
Again,
it's not a bad.
Show my But no, I always liked the more imagination movies.
Yes.
You know, horror, sci-fi, stuff like that.
Yes.
And I just, as I got older, I'm like, well, I kind of started to go and look them up in the now dead rentals. You know, it's all Netflix now.
It
and
sure
online.
is.
I started buying them.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a pretty decent collection going. I could
yes,
use a
you
lot
sure
more.
do.
I now do this podcast. I have increased my purchasing of horror movies exponentially to watch for this. But
yes, and I've started mine.
Yeah.
It's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I think, 2 weeks ago we went perusing and see what we could find for horrors, and we found some good ones. We have discovered that, like pawn shop-y kind of places, you get some really good older ones there. Mm-hmm. Really good older ones, yeah. Amazon, of course, is another place that you can go. But it's not as much fun as, like, actually picking up the DVD case and looking at it and stuff. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I guess another thing that kind of got me into horror is my partner and I, we started playing Dead Space.
Oh.
It was, yes. And we didn't really play scary games. And he shows me this case. And it's just, for the first Dead Space, and it's just a severed arm floating on the front of the case. And I was like, And we played the first and second. This is before the third one came out. And we had so much fun. It was horrifying, though. Every time something jumps out of the vent or something, I'm like freaking out, screaming, pulling the covers over my head.
Full of jump scares.
It's basically just a game of jump scares.
Yep.
And now when we go back to it, it's not as scary now. I don't know. I think it's aged well. Like, I think if you've probably never played it before and you're not expecting what's going to happen, it's probably a little bit better. But now every time I walk past a vent, I'm like, oh, here it comes. Oh, here it comes. Yep. But there's some parts that still really creep me out. Oh, yeah. Like the babies. Ooh, those mutant babies. Yeah. And the mutant kids. Ugh. There's something about children. There's something about children that just, anytime, like even I listen to a lot of serial killer podcasts. Anytime there's children involved, it's creepier, it's grosser, it's more horrifying.
Yep. I get you.
And I think it's great.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Awesome.
Yeah, it's just that kind of like sort of taboo horror kind of sort of thing, but it's very popular, like Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby,
Yep.
It.
Yep.
All of these, like it just makes it a little bit more creepy.
And regarding kids, back in the early horror days, more or less, more 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
Like there were kind of rules, like you can't kill kids, you can't show a kid get dismembered, you can't show anything like that. But nowadays, it's kind of throw the book out the window. They don't care.
Yeah, like have we all seen the first 5 minutes of It when Georgie gets his freaking arm ripped off?
And when I saw that, I'm like, okay, that's a little more grounded than I thought they were going to show.
Wow. Yeah, because I watched the miniseries right before I watched the new It that came out a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. The old one was good, but it was pretty tame. I mean, because it was made for TV as well.
True, but you had Tim Curry as the clown, which
is amazing.
Great.
Ugh, I miss him. He's fabulous.
Oh, he's. I think he doesn't get enough credit for his horror background. For
really,
It and the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Really, what's another one that was really good? I don't know if I'd consider it a horror. It was more of a comedy horror, if it was anything. Clue. He played the butler in Clue, the movie.
I think I've seen Clue. I know about it, but I've never seen it.
It's great.
I've heard about it. I've heard it's
really
good.
It's campy and wonderful.
and I'll do one better. You say Clue, I'll throw in Legend. He was the demon in Legend with Tom Cruise and who else is in that movie? But he was the big red horn demon.
Yeah,
with
okay.
The giant horns, and the prosthetics on him looked great. Like he had the big pointy chin. It was great, beautifully done. And of course, Tim Curry just knocks out of the park. And
of course. No other way to do it.
Nope. It's basically we know our horror shit pretty good.
Yes, it's true. I'm still getting there. Nick is much more knowledgeable than me.
Oh.
So I flounder a little bit, but I do have a very vast movie, TV show sort of background. So I can fill in a few blanks, like not horror, but I've also watched about 50 horror movies in the last few months. So went a little overboard, but I'm really enjoying it.
Not overboard, no. You're just stepping into the shallow end.
Yes. Oh.
But let's talk about how we got this podcast started, because
let's do it.
I had the idea a little while ago of not a horror podcast, more of the geeky, nerdy, podcast. But the person I was doing it with, I kind of thought, well, it's not going to really work out. Plus, I want to get something that people want to listen to, want to get the interest going. And there's tons of different podcasts talking about Marvel comics, all that stuff.
Superheroes is such a thing right now. It's because of the Marvel DC universe, I think it's such a huge thing, because you can take your kids to go see the Avengers or Iron Man, like it's kind of, but the parents would still enjoy it.
Yeah.
And like I just finished watching The Boys on Amazon, which was amazing.
I heard it's good.
It was fabulous.
I need to catch up.
I don't know if that would be considered a horror movie. There's lots of swearing, terrorism, dismemberment.
Well, we'll add this down the road, but Brightburn is a great horror superhero film. That's the one with the anti-Superman, right? Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, because I was like, why do I know that name?
No, it's a great movie.
But yes, superheroes have saturated the market now. I think everybody wants to talk about them. It can be family friendly or it can be not. Like The Boys is not family friendly. Do not watch it around your children. But it's good, and I'm glad that they can still do a spin on something.
Yeah. With horror, it's kind of all or nothing. You can't go half-ass.
Right.
With horror, you can't.
Right.
There's different genres of horror. There's thriller horror. There's slasher horror, comedy horror. There's so much. It's such a big, diverse ball of joy.
I agree.
But
great way to describe it. Ball of joy. I love that. I'm writing that down.
But only a few shows have actually got done right on TV. For example, it's just coming out now.
Which one? Is it on a streaming service?
No, it's on TV. It's the American Horror Story.
Oh, American Horror Story.
Oh,
1984.
American Horror Story. Yes, the whole series.
The whole series. Well. Oh, fabulous.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about the new one. I'm like, slashers, because slashers are my jam.
Yeah.
They are my bread and butter.
But that shows that they can kind of go from the no holds barred, rated R movies to the TV, censors area.
Absolutely.
They can make it work, although.
Absolutely. I think the first couple, well, probably like they're all pretty scary, and I know that, but the first couple were like disturbing scary. And I think there was even a part in which one was it? I've seen all of them up to Hotel? Roanoke? I've seen both of those. Roanoke then. I haven't seen Cult. And obviously 1984 is coming out right away.
Yeah.
But not to date this podcast, but it's coming out right away. But it's gonna be good. And there's one in Asylum. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay.
One of the episodes, there's actually a musical number, like a cheery musical number halfway through an episode. And it's almost jarring because you're in this horrifying, like, asylum where people are being put in wrongly and everything. And all of a sudden they're like, okay, let's do a musical number. And it's like a funny song that they do. And it's jarring because you're like, am I allowed to laugh at this? Or... But it was really good.
Yeah.
The casting on that is phenomenal. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like as we can keep going on about horror, back to
that's what we're here for.
That's right. That's how it's got started. So listening to all my podcasts, which I started years ago, and just when I'm driving to work or home, I just start a podcast and listen. And like, man, this is fun. And I got the itch again it's been over a month now, and I kind of just thinking, what can I talk about? Well, me and Allie here have been watching horror movies lately. We could review horror movies, talk about horror movies. That's a great idea. What will we call it? So for some reason, that week I had Jim Carrey's line from Batman Forever, Joy-gasm, just bounced around my head for some stupid reason. And I'm like, Joy-gasm, Horr-gasm, ooh, I like that. And I in my head, I threw up a whole pitch that I kind of texted to you.
I was basically Shark Tank for a minute. It was great.
and I'm like, yeah, I got a great deal. We should do a podcast about horror called Horr-gasm, blah, 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 2 reviews, blah, 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 all that stuff. What do you think? Thinking, she'll be like, that's a cool idea. I got on my plate right now. Maybe another time. Instead, I get a text back from you saying, we should call it Horr-gasm. This is a great idea, Nick.
Yeah.
And
all caps. Like,
yes.
I'm in 100%. I've been waiting for somebody to say the words, do you want to start a podcast with me? For so long.
And I respond, Horr-gasm. Perfect. Let's get this started. And you did. Like, you jumped into the shallow end head first. You didn't know what the hell you're doing. I know what the hell I'm doing.
I still don't.
Back and forth. But we do now. Like, you've done so much research and work on this. More than I was like, I thought you'd be like, yeah, okay, I'll help out do this and that. No, this will turn to your podcast.
This is literally what I've wanted to do since I've started listening to podcasts. I don't know why. Part of the reason is I love to talk. I love to talk. And I feel like with some movies even, we're going to have conflicting opinions. And I find not arguing, but having a thoughtful disagreement is a great way to grow as a person.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And so that's what I think. And also I love to learn. So we bought microphones and mixers and wires and downloaded apps. And I've loved this whole experience learning how to mix audio. Like, who are we?
the powers of being Amazon are like just greedily wringing their hands. You got the dollar bills going through their eyes like money, 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 money. And it was just like, do we need this? Let's buy that. We need that. We need 3 of those.
Yep.
Crap. We need some cords. We need good cords.
Yeah, we got the mixer. We were so excited, and then we realized we didn't have a way to plug it in. Oops. But we're learning.
Yeah.
And we're learning, and we're growing.
And this is fun.
It's so much fun.
We have meetings. We have everything going on. We got our executive producer Ichabod, who
sleeping here somewhere. She's working really hard like a normal executive producer.
Yes. Well, she already gave us crap for, not getting started sooner. So
I know.
Gotta get this going.
I tell her every time, you need to get opposable thumbs and get on my laptop and then we can talk. But, she still hasn't grown them yet, so.
No.
So selfish, right?
But, we made our sacrifice to the old, the dark podcast gods. And she kind of appeared out of nowhere. So.
We should have sacrificed extra to get her those thumbs, but what do you do?
Yeah. Oh, well.
Live and learn. Maybe next time.
In all seriousness, we are 100% into this.
Yes.
This is going to be fun. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have so much fun watching movies and just interacting.
Yes.
Talking with our audience, getting lots of ideas for other movies to watch.
Yes, we would love you to grow and with us.
Yeah.
And give us recommendations. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, what you wish we'd change, what you love about what we're doing. So we can make it better for you.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason we're doing it, is so you have that wonderful sound in your ears while you're at work. Because I do the same thing.
At work, driving to work, just going for a walk.
Going for a walk. That's one of my favorite things to do is I like to walk at nighttime. Because Ichabod, because we summoned her, she gets a little angry during the day. So I take her at nighttime.
Yes.
When she's most comfortable. And I listen to scary serial killer stuff when I walk, and it makes me walk a little faster, so I feel like it's a benefit.
Oh, yes.
Also, the reason that I actually started listening, I listened to another horror podcast, and the reason I started listening in the first place is because I was way too scared to watch these movies myself. And by listening to the other horror podcast, I actually started by like, okay, now I'm hearing, the scary parts. I hear what happens. I'm not so scared to watch the movie anymore. And it's sort of like a third person watching because they described the whole movie, which was fine. But I don't know. I hope that, if people, like I know my mom doesn't like scary movies at all, but the plot can be really good.
Yes.
So she's excited for this so she can listen instead of watching.
Some of our fans I've already interacted with on social media and some friends I know, same thing. Like, I don't watch horror movies. I hate them. They're scary. I can't stand them. But I'm interested in what you're going to talk about, and that way I can kind of get a feel of what's going on.
Absolutely.
If they want to watch it, sure. If not, that's fine.
That's totally fine.
But even, for our episodes, we're going to give a teaser for the next episode.
Yes.
So our audience can watch beforehand, and they can get an idea and even go along as we do the review with what we're talking about. And they'll know what we're talking about because some of them are older.
Yeah.
Some are newer. We're going to do the whole spectrum of horror. We're doing horror, thriller, thrasher, horror.
Can we do thriller. Thrasher? Is that a thing?
Not yet. we could maybe start a horror thrasher movie. But a slasher, a monster, comedy.
You bet.
We're even going to branch off into the video game area of horror.
Yes.
Horror,
I kind of talked about before with Dead Space.
Books.
Book reviews. If you guys would be interested in game and book reviews.
Even board games. Like I have an old 90s board game Nightmare.
Yes.
Where you play a VHS, again, show my age. VHS goes in and you play the game according to the video playing.
Yes.
And it's a fun game.
We should actually play that. We should play that this week. I'd really like to play that.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. Well, that's planned.
Making plans. Love it.
But yeah, we're just going to go be as broad spectrum as possible.
Absolutely.
And we just really, discuss trivia. We do trivia of each horror movie we talk about, and actors, actresses, the big franchises like the Nightmare on Elm Streets, the Friday the 13th, the Halloweens.
Oh,
Like-
so good.
Like,
All of them are fabulous. When Nick and I are actually roommates, little known fact, and when we first moved in together, I did not watch horror movies. It was not my thing. And Nick was like, well, let's try Friday the 13th.
Yep.
Let's try Nightmare on Elm Street. Let's try Hellraiser. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'd be like, Mom, Nick wants to watch a scary movie. I'm a little nervous. And she's like, oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And we had so much fun.
We did.
We had so much fun. And we would read the trivia while we were watching, which, I don't know, some might say ruins it or impedes it. But it was interesting to watch, because you read about the actors and who might have been cast. And I don't know, I think it's interesting. And so it made it a little less scary, I think. So now when I'm watching it, it doesn't bother me so much. Just because I feel like I've watched so many. It's just, I'm not as scared.
And also, like, we would riff on it as we
watched. Always. And that's what makes it just as fun.
Like, when a little spoiler for when we eventually do cover the Friday the 13th series.
Yes.
We were watching the New Blood? No, yes. Number 5.
Yes.
And throughout the whole movie, the one character, he kept looking around, looking for Jason.
Yes.
And every time he did, we would yell out, Jason.
Jason.
Jason. Because he'd look out, into, what's that? He'd always look away.
Yeah.
Like, is that Jason? Who's that? Is that Jason? There's a dog. Is that dog Jason? And that was our running gag through the
and we've been, it's funny because I do it with my family now. We were playing Trivial Pursuit. And I'm huge into Greek mythology, just as like really random side note, I guess. And the Argonauts go with Jason to get the golden fleece. And so we were playing trivia, Trivial Pursuit. And the question was, who did the Argonauts go with to retrieve the golden fleece? And I'm immediately like, Jason! 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 Or even when Ichabod is barking out the window, we would look out and go, Jason? Jason? Because it's so random. The movie is so funny and random.
And it's Tommy Jarvis. That's
Tommy Jarvis, yes, of course. You're right.
Is what it's called. I'm getting all my movies mixed up now. There's so
That's
many.
Okay. There are.
But it's just so much fun. Just how we were just through the whole movie.
Yes.
Is that Jason? Who's that guy? Is that Jason? And I had so much fun doing that with you.
Oh, yeah.
Like we could almost record us voicing over a movie and just riff on it. But that's down the road. We're about the podcast right now.
Yeah. If anybody ever wants to see our lovely faces, we may integrate into YouTube way down the line.
Yeah.
If that's a thing that you guys would be interested in, maybe let us know. I don't know.
And I'm sure if they're desperate enough, they could always track us down on social media. We're not that hard to find.
Horr-gasm isn't that hard to find. I am hard to find. I do not have social media.
Oh, that's right. You don't.
Spoiler alert.
I do.
I know you do.
I just go by my surname, Nick Rude, and Allie Midnight for yourself, which I love that name.
Midnight?
Midnight.
Oh.
Allie Midnight.
Interesting.
Yes.
Most people just call me Al, or Ellie, or Alana. I've got a few different names.
You do.
Yeah. I've been called worse, so.
Yeah. and those people are now 6 feet under.
There you go.
But
careful what you wish for.
That's right. Don't mess with that.
Ugh.
We got a lot more coming.
Yeah.
We have a lot planned for episodes.
We have a lot planned. We have a lot coming down the line. We got a lot of good recommendations on Facebook. So when movies are recommended, we like to add them right into the mix because you guys are the reason we're here.
That's right.
So if you want us to watch something, then we're obviously going to watch it as soon as we can.
And for sure, whoever gives us the idea will get full credit. We'll definitely let everyone know.
We'll give you a shout out.
That's right. Thank you.
Huge thank you. Shout out for whichever you recommend.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Nick, I have a question for you.
Shoot.
What is your favorite horror villain?
Ooh.
There's a lot of good ones.
There's so many. Oh, so many good ones. I could go with one of the Mount Rushmore, which is, Freddy,
yes.
Jason, Pinhead,
yeah.
Michael Myers,
yeah.
and
Leatherface.
Leatherface and Chucky. So there's
sure.
6.
Yeah.
There is 6 on, I believe, the Mount Rushmore of horror movies.
We had this talk. I totally agree with you.
But out of all of them, I'd have to say a tie. between Jason and Pinhead.
Really?
Jason, because he's just this unstoppable killing machine.
Yes.
You can stop him, but you don't stop him for long. He keeps coming back over
I
and over
agree.
and over. There's 10, 11 movies of him so far.
Even when you kill him, you don't kill him.
Nope. He's kind of the whole zombie thing, brought back through rage and vengeance.
Like Darth Maul.
Like Darth Maul. But him and I love Pinhead. I don't know. He's a villain, but not at the beginning. The first two movies, he's less a villain, more just an entity.
And there's like no backstory.
Oh, they down the road. They'll throw.
Yeah, but I mean, like in the first couple.
Oh,
right?
First one, no. The second one, they give more of a backstory.
Okay.
And the third one, they kind of elaborate.
Right.
More.
The third one I thought was a lot more
yes.
elaborate.
But the first, they're just known as Cenobites, as almost like angels or demons. We want to see them.
Absolutely.
But I just love the character, the look. He's always so patient and methodical when he does. He doesn't rush or run or chase. He just is there.
Yes.
And he's just got a presence about him.
Yes, I totally agree.
And it's not like a scary. It's more of an unnerving. What the hell is going on here? Presence, and I love that. I love that feeling.
Yes, I think sort of the straight up slasher knife through the back kills are scary, but the idea of torture and like lifelong torture, that's terrifying.
And that's where most horror movies are about. It's a quick kill.
Yes.
You don't get the slow. You get like Leatherface.
Yes.
That's more of the slow.
Yes.
Cut you up and eat you later.
Yeah.
Or take your face off and wear it as a mask and go, ooh, look at me, I'm pretty. But like there's not very many. Like they don't take their time. It's always rush, kill, next. Rush, kill, next. Some play like Freddy. He plays with his victims, but it's not a very long, drawn out death.
No, it's more of like a lumbering walk up to them, and then some sort
Jason, yes, but Freddy did more of.
Freddy, yes.
Yeah, Freddy. He depends on the death. He's more elaborate as the movies go along.
Yes.
Like the first one, he mostly just lifts him up and slashed him with his claw.
Right, which was great.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I'm glad that they do elaborate a bit.
Well, it works with his character.
Of course.
The first one, he was less comedy, more, I'm going to kill you.
Yes.
In your dreams, but as the second, third, fourth come along, he got a lot more elaborate with his kills.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I agree.
I think it's number 3. I think it's number 3, where everyone's in the psych ward, and they're given the pills to stop dreaming, all that.
Right.
And this one girl, she's trying to stay awake watching TV, and Freddy's on TV, and he kind of then becomes the TV, grabs her.
That was so creepy.
And has one of the greatest lines, welcome to prime time, bitch.
Yeah.
And pulls her into the TV.
That was great, yeah.
It just gets so elaborate, and I love it.
It's interesting you bring it up about getting more elaborate as the movies go on, because that's something that I noticed actually about, I just spam watched all of the Paranormal Activities. And one of the things is that the first PS, I know I'll put it in the description, but this whole episode's full of spoilers. But in the first Paranormal Activity, all that Katie and Micah, or Mika, or whatever his name is, experience is a door kind of half opening and closing and some footprints. So Toby, that's all that he can do. And that's almost one of the ones, chronologically, it's one of the last movies. So you can't do 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6 and have him all these crazy superpowers, because that wouldn't match up with the lore. No. So I think that they stuck themselves with that, even though I think that most of them, other than Ghost Dimension, I think that they're all okay movies. But, it's just you limit yourself. And I think as a producer, I forget who the producer is off the top of my head, but he didn't know if it would be as big as it did eventually get. Yeah. So, yeah.
And, when I first watched it, the footprints gave me a chill.
So creepy.
And it really plays on what you don't see, uses your imagination, and scares the whole fuck out of you.
That was another thing I was going to bring up.
Jaws is beautiful for that, because you don't see the shark for most of the movie.
You bet.
You see a little bit. Same with Alien. You just see parts of this here, parts of it there. You see a tail, you see a head, you see jaws. You don't see the whole thing until the very end.
Yes.
Which is a great build. And a lot of movies don't do that anymore.
And I was going to talk about that. The unseen, the unknown is sometimes so much scarier than, okay, here's a serial killer. And what I think of is Black Christmas.
Ooh.
You never find out who the killer is. You go through the whole movie, everybody's dying, the saran wrap over the first girl's face. That's creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has it in their home, and you never find out who the killer is. Same thing, Blair Witch Project. It scared the bejesus out of me. Because, like, you go through the whole movie, you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And then the ending is just, standing in the corner. And that's it. Yes, you don't see.
I remember I saw that in theaters. And that was a very fun walk home. But again, we'll talk more about it when we get to that movie. There's a bunch we have plenty to talk about.
And I think I actually bought the Blair Witch Project at a garage sale on VHS.
Ooh.
And I watched it in my basement. I remember I when I was living with my parents, this was way back, like in high school, like grade 9 or 10. I cleaned the whole basement, and I was like, okay, gonna watch Blair Witch Project. I plug it in, and I watch it by myself, and I'm like, cool, I'm just never gonna sleep again. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, down the road, I'll talk about some movies that actually traumatized me enough.
Absolutely.
That I'm like, okay, I'm screwed up for a bit.
There's quite a few.
Not an option.
I had trouble. The one that really has bothered me in the last 50 I've watched was Sinister. With Ethan Hawke, I think is his name. With the kids.
I think I have to.
And the old videotapes. He's a writer.
I've seen so many now. I'll have to rewatch it.
It is so creepy. It bothered me. And I don't get bothered by horror movies anymore. I'm like, okay, this is a thing, this is happening. Yeah. That bothered me. It is so creepy.
I think of all that I've watched in my entire horror career now of viewing horror movies, the one that really got me has to be The Grudge.
And I haven't seen that one.
Well, Halloween. We're watching Halloween.
Okay.
But yeah, it just, I don't know. It was there's nothing gory or anything. Well, gory spots.
Sure.
But it was just so simple.
And that's what's beautiful about it. Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, Japanese girl, makeup.
Yeah.
And she made a creaky sound with her voice. And it had the bit of the jump scare, but it was just something about it was so unnerving to me.
Yeah.
And again, I first saw it in theaters by myself.
Sure.
Because no one will see it with me. And I was living out of the city at the time. I had to drive an hour back home after.
Mm-hmm.
The whole drive home, me going from road, mirror, waiting for it to pop up.
In your back seat.
Or the kid. Or hear that sound. Which again creeped me out. And a week went by. I'm like, okay, I'd see it again. I have to see it again. So I went and watched it again. And this time, though, I was kind of like, this kind of bothered me so much. How about everyone else? So every time I knew it was going to happen, I went and I watched people next to me or behind me or whatever and see what their reaction was. And sure enough, they had the same reaction to me when I first watched it.
Yes.
And I'm like, so that's what I looked like. I wonder if they're going to have fun driving home.
When you go and see a horror movie with a good audience, it's like you're all in it together.
Yeah.
I went to see The Purge with a couple of my friends, and the first one that ever came out, The Purge.
Yeah.
I don't know. When did it even come out? 10 years ago? It was a while.
Purge wasn't that long ago. I think it was. Oh, maybe it was.
Anyways, so, and I thought it was pretty scary, but we had a few drinks before, so I wasn't as bothered by it as I normally would have been. But just that, affinity you have with the people around you, that you're all scared, you're all watching the same thing, you're all scared. It's, I don't know, it's fun when you have a good audience. Not when in Hereditary everybody's clicking the whole time.
Yeah.
That's bull. That's not fun for anybody.
No.
You know? Be a good audience member.
Yeah. One of the best reactions I've heard was recently, it's an older movie now, but This Is the End. It has Seth Rogen.
Yes,
And,
yes,
this
yes,
is
yes,
the
yes.
end of the world apocalypse movie.
Yeah.
This is so funny. During the hellhound scene when it's rushing through and jumping out,
Yeah.
some girl in the audience didn't scream. She shrieked at the top of her lungs.
Oh my gosh.
Like when it jumped out, it jumped through the wall.
Yeah.
She shrieked. I saw her get up and she walked out.
Isn't that a comedy? Kind of.
Yes. I think it's a horror comedy. I give it a horror comedy type.
Okay.
Because it's comedy, but there are the horror, the whole apocalypse elements.
Sure.
But I saw them like, wow, that's you don't see that very often anymore.
Sure.
You really don't, because people are now so
desensitized.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can say I am.
Sure.
Like I can go to. I don't get nightmares anymore. Horror movies don't scare me. Really.
I fall asleep listening to serial killer podcasts, so I know I have a problem. Like, I close my eyes and they're like, and then they murdered the whole family and tortured the mom. And I'm like, okay, good night.
But thinking back to the old Vincent Price movies,
yes,
there would be people who would be passing out, sick.
Mm-hmm.
Like they would be physically sick from seeing a scene, which the effects compared to now are pretty, laughable.
Yes.
But that was so new to them.
Yes.
And like if you have someone back then watch Saw. Or Hostel.
Could you imagine?
Or something like that. Like they would they would
Human Centipede?
Ooh.
Ooh. Right? Oh.
Yikes.
Yeah, I wonder if this is what our founding fathers wanted us to do.
Yes.
Hard yes.
Yes. So yeah, this is a good start.
Yeah, I think so.
A good start to our podcast.
I think we've fully realized what this is going to be about. Yep. It's basically going to be this, except we won't go as off topic. No. We will go off topic, because I'm bad for that.
Oh, it's a given.
Sorry in advance.
But it's horror themed, and there's nothing wrong with going off topic and talk about horror.
Exactly. That's what we're here for.
Yep.
And we're going to do a segment at the beginning of every show called Talking Chop.
Talking Chop.
So if you have anything you'd like us to talk about, if there's something on your mind that you'd like us to discuss or give our opinion on, we can definitely do that.
It'll mostly be us talking about upcoming horror movies, what we've seen lately. Just a little bit of previews.
Absolutely.
And possible movies we'll watch in the future and talk about. And we're going to just promote the horror culture.
You betcha. We're here to be ambassadors.
Yes.
We would love, thank you all for joining us, and we'd love if you would follow us on Facebook at Horr-gasm Podcast, or on Instagram at Horr-gasm, or Twitter at Gasm Horror.
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again next week for another Horr-gasm.